Maneuvering and the agility of the CF-18 is a wing. This is a very complex wing, and we call it a soft wing. And every time, based on altitude and airspeed, every time I put inputs into the control stick, the computers translate that, and based on the pressure and the density and the speed that we're flying, we'll translate that into different deflections on the flight controls. And the CF-18, as you see from the wings, the main wing in the back, you've got this leading edge extension, it's called, that comes right up almost to the front of the cockpit. And this leading edge extension is what allows the F-18 to give us superior maneuverability in a slow speed regime. And the F-18 is a very good dogfighter, very good phone booth fighter in the slow speed regime. And this allows it to fly at a very high angle of attack. If this is level and the wind is coming this way, then very high angle of attack is like that. A lot of aircraft can't do that. The CF-18 can fly with its nose very high and very slow by virtue of this leading edge extension that's here. And what that allows us to do is fly very slow, let the enemy fly out in front of us, and still give us controllability with the nose of the aircraft to move the nose of the aircraft around to get weapons to bear on the enemy. So that's the value of the leading edge extension here in the front, and it's incorporated in with the wings and the flight controls of the aircraft. You'll notice on the bottom some very, very beefy landing gear. If you're going to be looking at any other landing gear of other fighters, you'll see it's very light and slim in comparison to the CF-18. And the reason why that is so beefy, again, is a product designed for the United States Navy to land on aircraft carriers, and that can take quite a pounding and still absorb a lot of shock, not damage the aircraft or the landing gear. So that's why you have such a beefy landing gear on the CF-18. We have hard points. We call them hard points to carry weapons. This is a air demonstration model, so we removed a lot of the hard points that would normally be underneath the wing here. But just on the chin, or where the intakes are, we have some hard points for what's called the AIM-7, which is a radar-guided missile. And the missile would just slide in here, and it's embedded more or less in with the fuselage to keep it very streamlined. And we can carry a couple of AIM-7 missiles at those stations there. On the wingtip is where we'll carry usually the AIM-9, and the AIM-9 is a heat seeker missile, and it's a lot smaller than the AIM-7, and that's why it's smaller and lighter, and we can carry it on the wingtips here, as well as a variety of other places, but this is typically where you'll find it. We'll just carry on back to the rear of the airplane. The vertical stabulator, as well as a horizontal stabulator. Again, very much working in concert with the ailerons, leading edge, trailing edge extensions of the wing to give very good controllability and maneuverability to a heavy fighter and make it very agile. The Canadian F-18 is unique in that it carries a ID light, and that's because in Canada the 18 has another role. In addition to what the Americans' role would be as strike fighter, we also do all-weather intercept in our support of NORAD missions, North American Air Defense missions, and we are responsible to defend the border and to intercept any unknown tracks coming into the country for various reasons, anti-drug reasons, or in the old days of the Cold War for Bear aircraft and such coming into our sovereign airspace. In the cockpit, there are two computers which run all the avionics and weapons systems, management systems functions for us, and all the displays and radios. The two computers then will run all the screens that you see here. I'll just start on top with the HUD. And through the HUD here, that's what we primarily use to fly with. And if I had it turned on, you would see a velocity vector, which basically is a symbology of your airplane and where it's flying through space, and then pitch ladders with degrees up and down to let you know how high what rate you're climbing, what rate you're descending, as well as got altitude and airspeed box indications in there. So all your flight instruments that you normally get on the old-fashioned dials, which you'd find down by your right knee, we'll get to later, are digitized and displayed on this HUD for us, and that's right up in front. And the pilot can actually look through that HUD, get all the primary instruments, know how fast he's flying, how high he's going, and but at the same time still look out and have good awareness of what's happening outside the aircraft. As well, we talk a lot with the computer and interact with the computer with all these various buttons you see on there. And most of that is radar control, automatic radar functions. Weapon selection functions are here to select different weapons, air-to-air weapons. As I mentioned, radar modes are selected here. And then we have what's called weapons consent switches to release bombs. And in the front, where you can't see, is a trigger for the gun as well. Working over to your left, we're going to get to the throttle. This is a twin-engine aircraft, so we have two throttles. And the engines have 16,000 pounds of thrust each in afterburner, 10,000 in mill. And as you see as well on the two throttles, there's a lot of buttons. And the most important button is this one here, this flat one. We call it TDC, Target Designator Control. But as well, you can think of it just like a mouse on your home computer. Because you have to remember, it's not just an aircraft, it's a weapons platform, so it's made to try to get your jet in the proper piece of airspace to employ the weapons as required.